So we're going to send you back to Slido for one more round of polling. This poll there's actually two. They don't go yet. But I can give you the background on these. These polls originated at Eurodig in one of their sessions, a plenary that was discussing the future of the internet. And as I was taking these, I thought, wow, this is pretty interesting. It would be nice to see what the differences would be like between the European results and the US IGF. So we got the data from the folks at Eurodig, and we have their results, and we're going to run the first poll identically. So same question and save answers. The second one was, again, this was Eurodig. So the questions, really every single answer about the impact and how you'd want to shape the internet were highly regulatory, so really not appropriate for a US mindset. So what we decided to do is ask that question in an open format and let people reply with the words and the concepts that they came up with, and we'll just look and generate a word cloud rather than forcing ourselves into a highly regulatory model.
It's live.
So we're good. All right, it's live. SLI.do. Yeah, and so what we have on the screen right now is the first question and the answer distribution from Eurodig.
Yeah. So also before we let you go, I want to make sure to thank everybody that helped make this happen. Could not do this without our sponsors, which include Affiliates, Amazon, Aaron, CenturyLink, Charles Koch Institute, Comcast, NBC Universal, Facebook, the International Trademark Association, ICANN, Internet Society, NetChoice, Newstar, PIR, the U.S. Council for International Business, VeriSign, Winterfeld IP Group, and the Walt Disney Company. And we also could not make this happen without all of the volunteers that work tirelessly to pull this together, both in the planning process with the steering committee, working through and helping us refine the priorities of the internet policy community and turn them into the vibrant discussions that we have at the events like today, as well as those that come here and help us make the day a success by taking notes and running mics and making sure everything is going smoothly. Those that are running the live stream to make sure that even those that can't make it to DC are able to participate in the conversations. So really this is all you out in the audience making this happen, so thank you.
So next we're going to do a lightning recap from all of the different breakout groups today so that we have an understanding of what's there. And as a reminder, all of the content will eventually end up on the live streams that we're having today will be available. So you can go back. If your interest is piqued by anything that we say here, please do go back and take a look for more detail. Let's start with the artificial intelligence panel. The notes I have here is that governance of AI occurs at many levels, and also technical, individual actor, sector, local and regional government, national government, and multinational government. And because it's at all levels, it's important to have diverse views. And this means it should be covering race, class, gender, and educational diversity on development teams as well as in policy circles. There are elements of emerging consensus at the principal level, including around concepts like explainability, security, privacy, and anti-bias. Looking forward, the challenge is the implementation of these principles. And there were a lot of different perspectives on the panel as to how to regulate, for example, between setting baselines for all AI or focusing on use case specific regulation. There was a lot of excitement for some of the ideas for industry self-regulation and some regulatory sandboxes in the short term. Finally, there is an ongoing need for additional R&D into AI, quality and socially beneficial uses. On the Section 230 discussion, it was agreed that Section 230 is vital for free speech online, but we must be ready to answer concerns that society has about what role intermediaries play in keeping the internet safe and decent. Anonymity was an interesting challenge here. How can we hold anonymous lawbreakers accountable, but shouldn't we also want to maintain anonymous speech? The Section 230 debate has forced the tech industry to justify their content moderation strategies. And finally, whatever we do decide when it comes to intermediary liability, its impact will be felt around the world. On the cyber panel, two things that I want to focus on here, key takeaways. One, that cyber hygiene is critical. We talked about a number of instances where creating a baseline of both proactive and reactive efforts, best practices, norms, this is essential. These things are going to range from very sophisticated technologies or things like multi-factor authentication to the more simple things like staying up to date on your software patches. The operators, I just want to be clear about that, only the operators on the panel were in consensus on two key matters of safety. One, that we must maintain full end-to-end encryption. And secondly, that hacking back is an act that is counterproductive. It is an act of offense that only further harms the infrastructure.
And I got the easier end of the stick here, and these are pretty brief. But starting with the antitrust panel, they discussed the current standards for reviewing and analyzing mergers and acquisitions. The consensus of the panel is that the FTC and DOJ must engage in a fact-based process, and that consumer welfare is likely the best standard for reviews. Moreover, there's a need to be a showing of how the consumer welfare standard is failing to maintain a competitive market. As we analyze the size of technology, they should include in the analysis the barriers created by collection of data and network effects, and we must avoid the politicization of antitrust, keeping objective, fact-based tests when engaging in analysis. On the inclusion panel, they talked about the key themes of the importance of education and listening to marginalized communities, as well as volunteer advocacy, and really emphasized making the distinction between different types of connectivity and acknowledging that not all connectivity is the same. Mobile connectivity does not have the same effect as having a full desktop access. And then for the 5G panel, 5G promises great innovations, but it's important to recognize that it is about economics, technology, and geopolitical issues at the local, state, national, and global level.
Yes. At this point, we want to invite Marilyn Cade just for a few minutes. She's going to give us some anecdotes from the beginning of IGF back in 2009. As we said earlier today, this is our 10th anniversary. Yes, we know that's 11 years. She'll explain maybe how that gap came about.
Thank you. My name is Marilyn Cade, and I'm going to give you the 3-minute tour of our 10-year history. Well, first of all, I want to just say that it might be interesting to know that it took us in the United States 3 years from 2005 when the terminology of internet governance was introduced in the World Summit on the Information Society. It took us 3 years to learn enough about what it meant to actually create our own national IGF. So we held lead-up events, and there were people who are here in the room with you who were very essential to that. And for the first 3 years, we would meet at Becky Burr's law office, and we would invite the government representatives and others to come, and we would prepare for participation in the global IGF. In 2009, we created the IGF-USA. There were 87 people on the first email invitation, and about 60 of them showed up for the first planning event. And I see a few of them in the room who've continued to be very involved. Steve Del Bianco. I see also Shane Tews, and I believe Erin Varsova is here. Several others who were very involved with us, Mike Nelson. It might be interesting to know that at IGF-USA, we have always looked at ourselves as trying to take a more global approach. There's so much rich activity at the national level in the United States, and as we know, we have a lot of academia and a lot of think tanks and a lot of K Street law firms who focus on internet policy. So we're very different from other countries. We happen, as best I can tell from my experience, to be the national IGF who has the highest percentage of attendance and activity in the global IGF of all of the other national IGFs. And I think that's a reflection on how we see ourselves, that we try to reflect from our perspective into the global IGF and from the global IGF into our own work. As you all know, IGF USA is an annual event, but we have really begun to change over the years. And in the past few years, we have had a remote hub sponsored by Syracuse University that connects into the global IGF. And Dustin has decided to make annual road trips to introduce the concept of internet governance and internet governance forum into other parts of the United States. So we do expect to see more reflection and activity, and think about 10 years and how we've changed. Well, we began with really only 4 topics. It was primarily following the global IGF, so it was cybersecurity and access and privacy, and introducing the concept of multi-stakeholder. Obviously, we're now reflecting what is going on with technology changes, and I think that's something that we want to kind of keep thinking about, is how do we want the next 5-year stage of the IGF to look, of the IGF USA to look, and how do we see ourselves influencing the future of the IGF itself. So IGF this year is in Berlin in November, and it's an important date to keep in mind. Day 0 is the 24th of November, and I know you're all thinking, I'm thinking that it's important because that's Thanksgiving week, but actually no, it's because the 24th is my birthday. So looking around the room, you're going to see people who have been here from the beginning, but I hope you're going to think about this as a journey that you have joined now, regardless of how many of the IGF USAs you've been to. We have a very open planning process, and we need all of you. And we are, Dustin and Melinda are really our spirit guides here on openness and inclusion. We'll all be around, but maybe when you introduce yourself to somebody new, you can ask the question, how many IGF USAs have you been to?
Thank you. And thank you for all of your work over the last decade, Marilyn. Sweet.
I'll just show the poll results really quick. Just for fun.
He's going to show the poll results.
a little different than Europe. And then in terms of the word cloud, one stood out, and I did look through this and moderated to make sure there weren't any vulgar terms up there late in the day.
Can you go back to the previous one?
Yep. So I guess just to pick up on Marilyn's thread really quick on getting involved there, we'll begin after Melinda explains kind of our plans leading into Berlin. The next step after that will be to look at the IGF-USA 2020, and you can sign up. We have all sorts of mailing lists and social media groups where you can get clued in when we start the planning process. Each year we solicit an open call for topics and then survey the community to see what it is we should be talking about it. And then a core group of the steering committee works throughout the course of usually about 6 months to pull together this content, and we really need more people to get involved, and there are a lot of bright people in this room that really should be contributing to it. I wish there were still more people hanging around. I see some people looking in, but you can just go to igfusa.us and get involved and get onto all the mailing lists and everything. And for those of you that are not based in DC, there was mention of a road trip, always looking for places outside of DC to bring the IGF USA spirit and have those important conversations around the country.
Just so you understand our schedule and all the events that are happening between over the next couple of months, we will take the information we garnered today through these panels and put together reports, and we'll submit them to IGF. And as I said, there'll be a large contingent of us that will attend the meeting in Berlin, but representing us in a number of aspects, both within the NRIs, talking specifically about the three key topics this year: cyber safety, data governance, and inclusion, as well as other avenues, best practice forum and dynamic coalitions. So that is the outputs of this event today. It's more than us just getting together and talking about them. We do like to follow through. The other large planning event that's happening, and before we get to Berlin, something that's also been planned over the last several months, is a wedding. I wanted to take a few minutes, and I think we should all, first and foremost, give Dustin a round of applause for all the planning that he's done. But also, a big congratulations. It's only 9 days away to Dustin and Anna. She's still over there. Stand up for us, please. To do all of this concurrently is quite a feat, and I'm very proud, and we're all very happy for you. So with that, I think we have multiple reasons to go raise a glass. Thank you very much for coming, and we'll see you around.